So if you've been on social media in the last few weeks, especially political, Twitter, or TikTok, you may have come across one or both of these individuals, Harry Sisson and Chris Mowrey. Harry and Chris are the new kids on the block when it comes to political influencers, and they are on the left. But they're not the type of online fringe leftists that you see, like Antifa types or communists or tankies and things like that. These young men portray themselves as establishment Democrats. And if you haven't seen their videos, they usually go something like this.
Look, America has a sickness, and that sickness is our obsession with guns. If you're someone who opposes gun control, or has 50 plus guns in your household, or is giving guns to your 2-year-old children, you're part of the issue, and I have no problem saying that. Other countries are looking at us like we're insane because of our gun culture. And I want to make it clear, I have no problem with people wanting to defend themselves, but we have glorified these weapons, which have been used to take thousands of lives, and that glorification has prevented any real change. We need more gun control now, or tragedies will continue to occur.
As you can see, this video comes from Harry Sisson, where his tweet says, America has a sickness, and that sickness is our obsession with guns, with a finger pointing down. And as of this recording, it has 1.3 million views, 5.6 million impressions. And if we go to Chris, we can see another video about gun control.
The message to all the Republicans funded by the NRA, and this was inspired by a fantastic paper written by Chloe. Let me tell you something. Gen Z has sat by and idly watched as our friends and our family members are killed in schools and a gun epidemic has overtaken this country. We have sat by and we have idly watched over and over and over again as you value NRA money and the right to a gun over our lives. But this is what you do not understand. We are no longer watching. We are now voting. We are now in the streets, and I would be scared. Your time has come, and 2024 will be ugly. We are over this. Martin was a 14-year-old boy at Stoneman Douglas High School. He wanted to grow up and be in the Navy. He got shot and killed. You took away his right to be safe in school and grow up with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I promise you, you should be scared for 2024 because we are coming. We are coming.
And as you can see, the tweet says 2024 will go just as well for you as 2022 did. Good luck. And he's actually quote tweeting Donut Operator because he made this tweet before with this video, but for some reason he deleted it because Donut Operator said, "Where'd your tweet go? You can't attack the 2A community and not expect us to say something back." And you can see here, Donut Operator is responding to Chris's deleted tweet, which had that video. And here he offers a screenshot. And you can see me here with this reply responding, "Okay, but why did you delete it in the first place? Also, this is a more accurate summary." And this is part of the fun of it, where you see some of these memes coming out. Now, people made other memes, of course. And they've also made videos together as well.
What the Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you.
You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy.
And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools, and if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken.
And as you can see, this is from the Harry Sisson account. It says, Gen Z won't sit back and watch as the Republican Party tries to destroy our country, and it tags Chris in there. You can see the video has 4.5 million views with almost 23 million impressions and over 10,000 likes. Now, I'm sure many of you who are not familiar with these two and are watching this for the first time probably look and think this is kind of strange. The way that they're talking, it doesn't seem natural for the way young people talk about politics. It seems very inauthentic, kind of astroturfed, and this is the type of question a lot of people had. Because for a while, these young guys were popping up in the timeline, people were looking at their videos and saying, these guys came out of nowhere, they're getting a lot of views, they're espousing these talking points that seem like they're almost fed from the DNC or something like that, and they're just espousing it for the purposes of getting it to a young audience. What's going on here? And that's where we get to the crucial date of April 25th. You see, on April 25th, there was a Twitter space hosted by someone known as Zaganel. By the way, shout out to Zaganel for getting me the recording for this space. As you can see, it's titled Late Night with Harry Sisson and Friends. About 3,000 people tuned in, and the space started at 4:41 p.m. Now, of course, Harry did not join right away. A few hours later, he did. And that's when yours truly had the chance to confront this young man and ask him some questions.
All right, guys, chill out.
Harry,
Wait,
I gotta ask Harry a
Who is
question.
talking? Who
So,
just said that?
it's Nuance, bro, Harry. Don't worry about it. You'll learn about me more later. So here's the thing.
I don't know. I'm okay. I'll pass on
That's
that
great.
one, man.
I know. So you work with pallet management or whatever. I know that's what your other buddy works with. Have you guys ever been paid? Like, what do you guys get paid?
All right, hold on.
I don't. No. I'm not.
We've got to figure this out.
What do you?
I've got more.
You guys like have like a wait.
Chris
Chris is in here as well. You guys have like a fundamental misunderstanding of like what Pallet is. Pallet is just like a management company. So we create content. And if there's like people who want to reach out, like a brand is like, hey, we want you to talk about our brand, like any other content creator. Pallet like negotiates the legal for us. That's literally it.
Fantastic. So what have you been paid for so far?
Why is that any of your business?
I mean, we'd like to know.
I'm sure you would like to know, but I don't have to tell you about how I make money.
So you've never, there was no political groups have ever done anything with you guys, right?
I mean, like define political group, because like obviously my content's
inherently. Oh, we have to define political. It's not just strictly like corporation, like corporate businesses, right? It's always commercial, like corporate businesses with products. It's never any political.
I've done like plenty of work with a bunch of different people. But of course, like in politics, like I'm principled, right? So if there's something I don't agree with, I don't work with them.
Okay, but you have worked with political organizations that do.
Well, content's inherently political, right? So, like for example, let's just.
It doesn't. No, you can do inherently political stuff and never accept money from a political organization.
Buddy, let's like put two and two together, right? Let's do some critical thinking skills. So if my content's inherently political, who do you think I'm going to be working with most? Fucking Disney, McDonald's? No, you're going to be working with political groups.
That's not true. That's not true.
Wait,
there's tons of political people. Look, my content's inherently political. There's other people that are inherently political. We might get deals with like actual companies that produce products. It's not like the Democrat Party or some Soros organization. So here you see me introducing myself to Harry for the first time. He's very aware of me now. And here you can see him say that because his content is political in nature, of course, the types of paid campaigns that he's going to do are going to be political in nature. But like I said in the audio, that's not true. In fact, this video is brought to you by We the People holsters. As you can see, I've got my We the People holsters right here. This is for my SIG P365. There you go. We the People holsters has a whole host of products. You can see they have holsters for all different types of models. They've got gun belts, they've got tactical leggings, freedom holster, inside the waistband holsters. You can get all kinds of prints. You can get it in black, carbon fiber, pink. Don't tread on me. Let's go Brandon if you're interested. 1776, camouflage, etc. So if you want to get a discount, use the link below. Use code NuanceBro15 for 15% off any of your purchases. And support the sponsors that support us here on the channel. Also kind of funny that these guys are very anti-gun putting out the messaging and we're doing that video today, but we're also doing a pro-gun advertisement in it. I thought it was fitting. I thought that was nice. Now, next from the audio from the Twitter space, you can hear user Luca asking Harry if he works for any Soros-affiliated networks.
Have you ever taken money from a Soros-affiliated network? That's the question that we're asking.
You think I take money from George Soros? What the fuck?
He said Soros-affiliated network.
What the hell is wrong with you? See, this is what the crazy thing is. Like, Chris,
wait.
Why is that a crazy
No, you should come back once your voice changes.
I mean,
guys, stop with the insults. Chill out.
So we keep pressing him on the funding. He doesn't seem to want to answer it, but we think it's an important question to harp on because it's important. A lot of people, especially young people who are not very politically inclined or they're new to politics, they watch this stuff and they think, oh, maybe this is genuine. This is just a creator. He's a kid just like me. But they don't realize the forces that are behind these figures. So we continue to press, and unfortunately, other people in the space, some so-called conservatives, are getting annoyed and trying to change the conversation or trying to shut us down.
All these random people I've never spoken to are like making like these crazy assumptions.
Yeah, I know.
How is it a crazy assumption?
What do you mean? How is it a crazy assumption?
All right, let's start off with this.
Assumption?
Do you have any evidence to suggest any of what you're asking?
You won't even answer the question.
We're trying. No.
Wait,
All right, I do.
That's not the question.
Hold on.
Like,
Evidence is you already.
Guys, stop.
All right. I see that Harry is a Democrat. Harry, how do you feel about Joe Bidden announcing?
No, that's a terrible question, Zach.
He asked me a
Let me
question.
ask
Gee,
the
it's
question.
so much
I mean,
better to
listen,
have
we
6 of
you're
you.
ganging up.
I know,
on
but Zach,
me.
he asked me a question.
Guys,
Zach,
guys,
let me talk.
guys, I'm gonna leave.
So I continue to press Harry on the issue. He's not being very forthcoming. So I basically say, hey, are you for dark money in politics? And the individual who was doing the farting noises earlier continues to try and berate me and shut me down.
So you believe in dark? You believe in dark money in politics?
No,
Yeah,
no,
so this is
absolutely
really
not.
going to
But
win
by
us
the
this
way,
battle.
wait,
So
for
much
this
nuance.
guy,
This is not going to fucking
Aaron, I don't give a
battle.
shit what your opinion is. I'm talking to you.
If I could,
Well, I think
if I could just quickly,
Dude, you're doing the
friends with our
farting noise.
spaces,
my
Like
God.
Zach should kick you.
Yeah, I did it to shut your fucking asses up because you won't stop over talking. Let the fucking kid talk. This is how
Thank
grown-ups do things. You're the grown-ups.
The
in
grown-ups
room
do the
acting
farting
worse than a
sound?
fucking
That's what the grown-ups
21-year-old.
thank
It's
you,
because
Aaron.
I don't have
Thank you,
fucking nose
Aaron.
power right now.
Okay,
So fucking
okay,
learn
guys.
like a goddamn adult and have a conversation.
Aaron,
Now, frankly, I didn't do really any research on this kid before I went into the space. I just saw some of the videos. I'm going based off my hunch and things I've seen in the past with other people. So I decided to name a few organizations and asked him, hey, were you paid by any of these?
I'm not going to answer this random individual online about like what I do.
well,
in my private
let
life.
me
I
ask
just don't
you a
think that's
question
that
then,
crazy.
Harry.
Democracy
I'm gonna-
Alliance, Arabella Advisors, Midas Touch. Have you been paid by any of them?
Nuance. Let me rephrase the question.
He did his
Harry,
homework.
Nuance, stop
Harry.
with the Alex Jones bit.
Wait,
Just let
let
the
me
name
That's not
rephrase the
Alex
question.
Jones.
Come on.
So there you can see I named 3 groups. I said Arabella Advisors, Democracy Alliance, and Midas Touch. These are liberal PACs affiliated with the Democrat Party. They donate to liberal Democrat causes. Some, like Democracy Alliance and Arabella Advisors, are explicitly affiliated with George Soros. And of course, there's Midas Touch, which started in 2020. They primarily operate in social media, and they raise millions of dollars. And of course, as soon as I name those 3 groups and Harry responds, "What is this guy talking about? You're crazy," another individual, who also ran for office as a Republican in the state of Texas, decided to say, hey, stop it with the Alex Jones bit, implying that I'm engaging in some conspiracy crazy nonsense that has nothing to do with reality. By the way, this Twitter space and subsequent Twitter spaces with Harry that I've done, where I've even gone into more depth with arguments and things like that. I mean, this Twitter space in particular, eventually I was not exactly removed. I mean, they threatened to remove me, but so I decided to leave of my own accord. And of course, many people were trash talking me later. Now, by the way, this particular Twitter space and my exchange with Harry went on much longer. I think it's a very entertaining space. If you guys want to listen to it, I will upload it for members on the site as well as my Twitter subscribers. I'll try to put that out there. So go to nuancebro.com/join and become a member if you want to get the full exchange there. I'll maybe even try to include some of the recordings where they basically, after I left because they threatened to kick me and people were trash talking me afterwards. By the way, I just want to make something clear. For the people who trash talked me in this space, there's no ill will towards them. People make mistakes. They get caught up in the moment, caught up in the mob mentality, especially against someone as unlikable as me in a Twitter space like that. I get it. It's not a problem. But it goes to show, hey, if you really have your convictions, you stand strong. Don't let other people bully you out of it. Forge the path, stay on course, and push through. Because as you'll see in a bit, your boy was right. Now, after I went back to look at the timeline of how this entire situation started to snowball into something bigger, which we'll get into, I tried to go back and see where did all this first start. Now, of course, the Twitter space, April 25th. This seems to be the very definitive date, April 25th. But around the same time as the Twitter space, there was a user by the name of Shadzy1. You can see here on April 25th, around 7:07 p.m., he made a post saying, "That's crazy, bruh. Gonna need you to run that back for me, though," where he highlights a Washington Post article by Taylor Lorenz talking about Inside Democrats' elaborate attempt to woo TikTok influencers. It talks about Pallet, the management firm, which we were talking about in the Twitter space. And as you can see, Chris and also Harry put in their bio this management company. But then on April 26th, you have Twitter user Donut Operator, who has almost 500,000 followers, posting "You're a paid shill" and posting tweets of Chris Mowrey, highlighting his management company, and referencing a Shads tweet, and also giving Shads a shout out here with that thread that we were referencing earlier. And then people started digging deeper, including myself, because I already planned to make a video after I did that Twitter space. As you can see here, this is the DNC Services Corp., the Democratic National Committee, paying Pallet Media, this is their agency that they work with, $200,000 for paid media and $10,000 for online advertising in about the span of 2 months in 2022. This is in August 4th, 2022 and October 19th, 2022. Now, some people have been saying, oh, the DNC paid them $200,000, that one of these kids made $200,000 or both of them got $200,000. This is not the case. The DNC pays the agency. Obviously, on that White House trip, there were multiple influencers, not just Harry or Chris. In fact, I'm not even sure Chris went on that trip. But you could say there's not a direct tie to Harry or Chris there because, you know, it goes to the agency and who knows what the agency does, right? Because they don't have to publicly disclose their payments. They're a private company. But remember that other group I mentioned, Midas Touch? Well, if we go to the FEC filings, we can see Midas Touch paid Harry Sisson $6,000. We can see August 16th, 2022, we got $2,000, and October 5th, 2022, we've got $4,000. So it's interesting when I mention that name among the groups that I mentioned, he pretends, what is this guy talking about? This is crazy. What is he talking about? There you go, in black and white, clear as crystal, as Willy Wonka would say. Now, upon finding this out, I spoke to Harry in subsequent spaces more recently, and he tries to pretend, well, I used to have Midas in my bio. Well, he doesn't have Midas in his bio anymore. It's not listed on his LinkedIn. And again, when I brought it up, he tried to play it off like I was crazy for implying that he was paid for these groups, by these groups. So people were posting this information on Twitter, especially the $210,000 from the DNC going to their management company. And here are the responses that they started putting out. From Harry Sisson on April 28th, Republicans would rather make up BS lies about myself and Chris than talk about real issues. It's absurd how much attention they give a couple of people in their 20s who started social media pages from nothing and are simply passionate about the issues. Many have no understanding of how management companies work. It's absurd, and the conspiracy theorists are embarrassing themselves. It's amazing how some folks have nothing better to do than create fake conspiracies about 20-year-olds online. Now, the funny thing is, Twitter has this feature known as community notes, and people can use it to fact check posts that look misleading or people need additional context about. So here you can see that there's actually a community note under Harry's tweet that says, in late 2022, Biden's campaign team connected with young social media influencers, including Harry Sisson, to draw in voters 18 through 29. And it links a bunch of different articles, and it says, Sisson recently signed with Pallet Management. Pallet received more than $200,000 from the DNC in the last 8 months. And then it puts other links as well. They also made other posts that they subsequently deleted, but luckily we have screen grabs of those. Yours truly got a screenshot, and I said, yo, Chris Mowrey, why did you delete this tweet? Where he says, Palette, which he misspells Pallet, his own agency, is a huge company. They do marketing away from management. Our content is our own, and it's laughable that you think we got $200,000 from the DNC. With how much I shill them, they owe me at least that much. So he admits to shilling them. I actually didn't mind your content, but you aren't a journalist. He's replying to Greg Price, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. You get your followers to subscribe to a Substack. Do they know you make thousands a month while I make close to zero? Do they know Dom, the destroyer of narratives, and your friends beg for donations and have Venmo links when I never have? While you all push conspiracy theories and post about politics for money. I post because I'm passionate. If I wanted to make 10K plus a month in this space, I could do it tomorrow, but I don't. This conversation is over. And again, he subsequently deleted that post. Now, one of the reasons people think they were deleting the post is because they were getting the backlash, but also because they were getting fact-checked in the community notes and it made them look bad. For example, here's a deleted video where they talk about this whole controversy again. Again, courtesy of Donut Operator saying, why'd y'all delete this video?
Brothers, as the Republicans would like to call us, but recently many people on the right have been accusing myself and Chris of being paid by the DNC, and we just wanted to come on and say that's an incredibly dumb thing to think.
Yeah, like congratulations, you discovered we're both signed to Pallet Management, which is in our bios. And Pallet's a huge company, right? They do marketing work, they do management work. So they receive that money to do marketing and to cover travel expenses separate from what we do. So we haven't seen a dime of that $200,000. Like, do you really think I would dress like this if I had $200,000? And again, it's all public information. And we're also, you discovered, we're Democrats, and we're going to vote for Joe Biden, which I think most people already knew.
And look, if the DNC is handing out checks, we should be first in line to receive them, but that's simply not happening, and we haven't received a dime from the DNC. And we want to make it clear, we're perfectly happy to work with organizations that share our vision. So if someone reached out to us and say, hey, we're trying to make sure the environment is protected, would love to work with them. But we are simply not working with the DNC, and we want to reiterate that everything that's been posted on social media is public information. This is not a home run story. It's all out there for everybody to see.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we're going to go continue our normal content like people want to see. Maybe we'll go hang out with Hillary and Hunter on an island or something, but not the home run story you think it is, and we love.
And as you can see in this post, here's the original one from Chris Mowrey saying, we're not paid by the DNC with a finger pointing down, which of course they deleted this. But one of the reasons might be, again, another community note fact-checking this, saying Sisson is signed with Palette Management, a talent agency that received over $200,000 from the DNC for media and online advertising in August and October of 2022. Puts links. It also says Sisson also personally received $6K from a DNC super PAC for social media consulting in August and October of 2022. They're referring to Midas Touch here. So let's look a bit deeper into this. Let's start with that article, the Washington Post article from Taylor Lorenz that many people were citing early on. And it says, Inside Democrats' elaborate attempt to woo TikTok influencers. A free trip to DC, a private chat with Obama, and an hour in the Oval Office with Biden. The Democrats are rolling out the red carpet for social media influencers. And if we scroll down, we can see who organized this trip. The trip was organized with the help of Daniel Dax, the founder of Palette, a talent management firm. The DNC contacted Dax because he had previously organized influencer efforts for the 2020 Biden campaign. Interesting. So the management company that they pretend, oh, it's just like this random management company. They do all kinds of things, whatever. It just so happens to be it has the Biden connection, not just recently, but goes back to 2020. And we're going to remember that name, Daniel Dax. The DNC paid Palette a retainer, which was used to cover the creators' travel costs and expenses, and is not compensating them directly for the videos they post. Quote, content creators have platforms that can reach millions, and we're excited about this collaboration as part of our effort to reach young voters to remind them of the stakes in this election and how to make a plan to vote, said Shelby Cole, Deputy Chief Mobilization Officer at the DNC. They also met with high-level DCCC staffers who instructed the group on effective messaging strategies. Now hold on, $210,000, but we're expected that this is for the travel expenses and lodging and things like that for a few creators visiting the White House for a day? I mean, did they rent a private jet for this occasion? Did they stay at a palace for 3 nights? Like, how could this possibly cost $210,000 just for a single visit? I think there's probably more going on there. Here we see another important part of the article. Quote, in all my years in politics, I've never seen a single strategy that could flip a state on its own, said Madeline V. Toomey, founder of digital consulting firm Rufus in Maine, who also worked to organize the trip. Quote, TikTok is that strategy. It impacts culture and politics in a way that no other media reaches. And in the next paragraph, we see this quote from Aidan Cohn Murphy, founder of Gen Z for Change, a group that was formerly known as TikTok for Biden. Now, this group, Gen Z for Change, let's take a look at that group. All right, so we go to the website, Gen Z for Change. We are a collective of Gen Z activists that leverage the power of social media to drive progressive change. Okay, seems pretty basic here. Okay, they're a 501c4 nonprofit registered. I looked up the EIN, by the way. It doesn't come back to anything. We go to their About section. About us. We are young activists who use online platforms to affect positive social change. We look. And okay, we have the team here. We got the founder, of course, Aiden. We got this Olivia Giuliana girl, who's the director of politics and government affairs. Okay. This Elise Joshi girl, she's acting executive director. And all these people look fairly young. They all look like Gen Zers to me. And that's it. That's all the people on the About page. But here's the interesting thing. If you go back, Gen Z for Change used to have a different About page. Going back 1 year, we can see this is what the Gen Z About page looked like. And we scroll down. Okay, we got some of the same people here. But who's this Mr. Daniel Dax, senior advisor and founding board member? Why wouldn't they list a founding board member in the current about page? Interesting. And we also see that Madeline V. Toomey chick. Oh, senior advisor and founding board member. Another person who's not listed on the current about page. Wait, Daniel Dax and Madeline Toomey, they're the ones who organized that White House trip for the young people to meet Biden and Obama. Also, Daniel Dax, isn't he the founder also of the pallet management company that Harry and Chris work for? If we go to the About Us page on pallet management, our leaders, Daniel Dax, founder and CEO. Let's look a little more into this Madeline Toomey individual, because I think this is where things start to get interesting. In an article from the Daily Caller, titled "The White House's Advocacy TikTok Campaign Was Actually a Democratic Front the Entire Time." We can see here, Gen Z for Change, a 501c4 nonprofit group, enlisted communications consultant and two-time Democratic presidential campaign staffer Madeline Toomey as its senior advisor and founding board member, according to the organization's website. Toomey was employed on Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign as community content director and served as an advertising budget manager on Barack Obama's 2012 presidential campaign. In addition, she has worked for Bully Pulpit Interactive and Priorities USA, two major pro-Democrat consulting firms, according to her LinkedIn page. Toomey took credit for coaching the consortium of influencers on how to talk about why they support Joe Biden during the 2020 campaign in an interview with the Social Media and Politics podcast. Toomey explained that many of the influencers had never talked about politics on their profile before. Interesting, this seems to line up with the tweet by Chris Mowrey saying, "I made my Twitter in 2014 as a kid, sent my first tweet about politics a few months ago. I am not owned by any administration, I do not work for the DNC, and all my tweets are my own. When your first thought is paid shill, it's clear you can't stand on your arguments." Anyway, let's look at Madeline's website, Rufus in Maine. So here we look, Rufus in Maine, a boutique digital consulting firm for progressive nonprofits and funders from Madeline V. Toomey. And we scroll down. Our clients, the Democrats, Biden-Harris, Climate Power, Hillary, Made to Save, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Global Citizen, DCCC, Priorities USA, New Media Ventures, we'll get back to that in a second, Gen Z for Change, Obama, Democracy Alliance, that's one of the groups that I named. If we go to the website Influence Watch, which is a fantastic resource when you're trying to look at influence operations and different 501c4s and things like that, we can see that it's a collective of left-of-center donors that have been active in orchestrating the activities of a permanent left infrastructure since 2004. It's established as a taxable nonprofit, but is not a 501c organization. To be a member, you have to provide at least $200,000 per year to left-of-center organizations. Billionaire financier George Soros and late Progressive Insurance chairman Peter Lewis are the most notable Democracy Alliance donors. So right there, Democracy Alliance is a Soros-affiliated organization. Also, that group Arabella Advisors that I mentioned, as you can see from this Fox News article, if we scroll down, Arabella Advisors has also received hundreds of thousands of dollars in consulting services from the Democracy Alliance. At least one Arabella employee, Scott Nielsen, its managing director of advocacy, worked with Soros nonprofits and the Democracy Alliance before joining the consulting firm. Now, back to Gen Z for Change for a second, because there seems to be a bit of dispute over whether Harry is actually a part of Gen Z for Change. Even though Daniel Dax, the founder of his management company, is the founding board member of Gen Z for Change and a senior advisor. And even though you had Gen Z for Change members, like we saw in that Washington Post article, like the founder of it went to that White House meeting that Daniel Dax and Madeline Toomey put together, along with the DNC, which paid Pallet the $210,000 for that trip. Recently, Harry denied to me that he was a part of Gen Z for Change, which I found strange because if you go to the Gen Z for Change YouTube channel, one of the shorts that they post is Harry, who, if he wasn't a creator for Gen Z for Change, why did they write creator Harry Sisson, hashtag Gen Z for Change, hashtag Gen Z for Choice, hashtag Roe v. Wade?
Picture about abortions being circulated online a lot, and the scary thing is it's true. It says the treatment for an ectopic pregnancy is abortion. The treatment for a septic uterus is abortion. The treatment for a miscarriage that your body won't release is abortion. If you don't get those abortions, you die. And as I said, the scary thing is all of this is true. An abortion is treatment for all of these things, and if women don't receive it, they will lose their life. I don't think pro-lifers understand how dangerous it is for women to not have access to safe abortions.
And you might say, well, maybe they were just featuring a creator they agreed with or something like that. Well, you can see in this podcast from V Interesting with this very well-known creator, V Spehar, who, by the way, was at the same influencer TikTok White House visit as Harry. As you can see here, I think they brought me in as a fairly independent, attempting to be nonpartisan creator who did not vote for Obama, said V Spehar, host of Under the Desk News, a TikTok news channel with 2.7 million followers. And you can see in this picture, it references V Spehar. And you can see in this podcast, July 8th, 2022, V says, this week, V is talking to Gen Z for Change activists who utilize social media to educate their generation, encourage and mobilize civic participation. V sits down with leaders Victoria Hammett, Olivia Juliana, and Harry Sisson from the organization to talk about how they're deploying TikTok armies, posting political thirst traps, shutting down tip lines, and planning other clever ways to shift the political debate. And if we listen in...
So for today, I'm really excited to welcome 3 young activists to talk about their choice to become politically engaged, specifically through the organization Gen Z for Change. Victoria Hammett is the group's Director of Programming and Deputy Executive Director. She's joined by members and political advocates Harry Sisson and Olivia Juliana, all of them under the age of 21. Y'all, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So 3 political activists from Gen Z for Change, introduces Harry as a member. He doesn't object, doesn't correct. And granted, it's possible he's not technically a part of the organization. That's fine. It doesn't really matter for our purposes. This story's not just about Harry or Chris. As you notice, we haven't even really talked about Chris that much at all. He only joined Pallet a couple weeks ago. He's only been posting for a few months. And again, in a more recent Twitter space, again, one that wasn't recorded, and I don't have time to go through the archives and tell someone to go archive it and send it to me for this video. I'm trying to get this video out as soon as possible. He told me he's only been paid by one organization thus far. Apparently it's called Turn Up Vote or something like that. And apparently that's the only organization he's been paid by. Harry, on the other hand, has had much more experience for a much longer period of time. He's got a much bigger following, and he's clearly done a lot more work. You know, it's funny. I recently saw that they were on the Tim Dillon podcast, and I noticed that Tim had the same perception of them that I did. Because I looked at Harry and I saw this kid looks like a rich kid. He looks like he's, like a suit from, DC family, kind of like Kavanaugh type or David Hogg type, where your parents are like super rich or feds or something like that. And then I look at Chris and he seems like this young guy, kind of normal kid, just normal background or whatever. And this is how Tim Dillon put it on his podcast.
Maybe Harry, you obviously you're from Langley, Virginia. You have a little bit more. But then, Chris, they found you in like a Waffle House.
Yeah.
So people, I had no idea George Soros ate in Waffle Houses. But the point is like, so what do you guys do? I go on Twitter sometimes and you and the little MAGA freaks, you guys all yell at each other and stuff.
So he says Harry's from Langley, implying he's CIA or has family that's CIA, and then talks about Chris. Oh, he's from a Waffle House, indicating he's more of like a normal or like lower class type of person. This is sort of a interesting dynamic they got going on here. He makes a quick Soros joke about the Waffle House. I thought that was pretty funny. But I want to get back to Gen Z for Change, which Harry may or may not be a part of. He claims he's not, but he appears on the podcast, introduced as such. He's on the YouTube video on the account of Gen Z for Change. He's friends with the people, appears with the people all the time. Obviously, the founder of his management company is a founding board member and senior advisor to the group Gen Z for Change, as well as Madeline Toomey, who helped organize the DC trip that he went on when he went and met Biden and Obama. By the way, here's the video of Harry with Obama.
Folks, it looks like President Obama is getting ready to help get out the vote.
Harry, why don't you let me handle this one?
You got it.
So I'm about to go out to campaign because the stakes couldn't be higher in this election. We've got climate change on the ballot. We've got gun safety on the ballot. And if we elect more members of Congress who are pro-choice, we can actually reinstitute Roe versus Wade as the law of the land. But it's only going to happen if all of you do your part and get out there and vote. Harry?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I couldn't have said it better myself. Make sure to visit iwillvote.com today. The link is on my bio, and make a plan to vote.
Apparently not paid for by the DNC. Hey, I'm just a normal kid. I get to meet Barack Obama and do a TikTok with him and go to the White House and meet Biden and have that all paid for and taken care of. And my management company got hundreds of thousands of dollars from the DNC for it. Anyways, back to Gen Z for change. So in doing the research for this, and by the way, I wasn't doing this research myself. The lovely Samira Khan, for example, was a major help in doing research for this video. So shout out to her. Go follow her on Twitter. Great help. Did a large amount of the research. Fantastic research abilities. We found this company, New Media Ventures. And looking into New Media Ventures, we can see full portfolio, Interval, Block Media, New Disabled South, Gen Z for Change. Interesting. So this is part of their portfolio. This group, New Media Ventures, has in their portfolio this group, Gen Z for Change. Fascinating. And if we go to their fall 2022 investments, introducing New Media Ventures fall 2022 cohort, 6 innovative projects, we go down, and we see Gen Z for Change. And we see a quote from the acting executive director, Elise Joshi. That's this Elise Joshi that we highlighted earlier. She says, New Media Ventures investment is crucial to our growth in 2023. We are able to bring on a full-time finance director and direct resources towards strengthening our creator network, as well as increase our in-state programming with a focus on over 10 key states, including Texas, Georgia, Virginia, and Pennsylvania, to name a few. We are so grateful for the investment and look forward to keeping in touch with New Media Ventures community as our work expands. And by the way, again, on the Rufus and Maine website for Madeline Tomei, remember the clients list? Our clients. Oh, New Media Ventures. That's one of her clients. Fascinating. And if we go to the 2020 portfolio section for New Media Ventures and we scroll down, we can see Investment Committee. Every year we recruit members of our community to join the New Media Ventures Investment Committee. These experts from across the fields of technology, social justice, media, philanthropy, investment, and government complement the New Media Ventures team's expertise, help us surface critical information during the interview process, and ensure that we're evaluating the startups in our applicant pool rigorously and efficiently. And you see some interesting names here. We see Brandy Collins, formerly Color of Change. Color of Change. Let's look into that for a second. So if we go on the Open Secrets website, we look at colorofchange.org PAC donors, and this is for the 2022 cycle, and we see, oh my God, George Soros donating $1 million to Color of Change PAC. By the way, that donation happened 6 days after Color of Change PAC endorsed Alvin Bragg and pledged to spend $1 million to support his campaign for being DA of Manhattan in New York. And of course, Soros on May 14th just happened to make that $1 million contribution to Color of Change PAC. Soros didn't give money to Alvin Bragg. He didn't support Alvin Bragg. He just happened to give the money to Color of Change PAC after they endorsed Alvin Bragg and gave that money 6 days later for the exact amount that they said they were going to pledge to Alvin Bragg. Interesting, just something to take note of. We've got Ken Zimmerman, formerly of Open Society Foundations. Wait a minute, what's Open Societies Foundations? And we can go to the Open Societies Foundation website, who we are. The Open Societies Foundation, founded by George Soros, are the world's largest private funder of independent groups working for justice, democratic governance, and human rights. George Soros, the founder of Open Society Foundations, began his philanthropic work in 1979, funding scholarships for Black African university students in South Africa and for East European dissidents to study in the West. Today, his foundations fund groups and projects in more than 120 countries. Now, I could talk about these various groups that are Soros affiliated for days, and I'm sure that would make an interesting video. Maybe I'll do that in the future. It's a very fascinating topic, but we're already seeing some very shady connections here to Soros affiliated organizations. And you got a Rockefeller Brothers Fund, whatever, no big deal, but we got Madeline V. Toomey of Rufus and Maine right here. So you're starting to see how incestuous all these political relationships can be. You have Madeline Toomey, who organized that trip to the White House for these TikTok influencers, along with Daniel Dax, who is the founder of Palette Management that has people like Harry Sisson and a lot of these TikTok influencers who go there. They both happen to be founding board members at Gen Z for Change. Of course, she has clients. One of those clients is this new media ventures company that she also was put on the investment committee of, that then gave money to Gen Z for Change, which is also, this media ventures group is affiliated with Soros organizations like people who formerly served at Open Society Foundations and Color of Change PAC, etc. You see all the weird ties that are going on here? And just to go a step further down this rabbit hole, I was able to source a private 2015 document that came exclusively from Free Beacon, which is from Democracy Alliance, and a look at their 2020 Vision investment portfolio. And if we scroll down, we can see New Media Ventures. New Media Ventures is a progressive angel investor network that supports young, innovative media and tech organizations. It seeds startup organizations with the potential to build progressive power, earn revenue, grow to scale, and reach large audiences. Organizations identified by New Media Ventures aim to help fill major gaps in progressive media, messaging, and outreach. It's got C3, C4 status, budget, $0.67 million. And remember, that's in 2015. The budget has undoubtedly grown since that time, now that we're in the year 2023. But again, Democracy Alliance, again, that was that Soros-affiliated group. It's that big group of progressive investors that have to invest at least $200,000, of which George Soros is one of the most notable donors. Now let's jump back to Harry for a second. And I know it's going to seem repetitive because it's going to be another video where he's addressing people calling him out for being a paid shill and things like that. But I promise there's another reason we're looking into it. So here you see a post from Harry, April 30th. MAGA trolls have claimed that I'm paid by the DNC and the White House, but that is simply not true, with the finger pointing down. They love the finger pointing down. And of course, there's a fact check here from the community notes. It's basically the same post we've seen before.
So some MAGA trolls have been claiming that I'm a shill paid for by the DNC, and I don't actually believe what I say. If I've learned anything in my time making content on the internet, it's always a losing battle to feed the trolls, so I'm only going to address this once. I have never been paid by the DNC, ever. In fact, any content I've ever been sponsored to post has been labeled as such as required by law. I suppose it's worth mentioning that I've never been paid by Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, or the deep state either. The best part is this grand conspiracy the liberal Illuminati has been hiding from them is literally just a Washington Post article. And if they actually read the article, they would see that no creator was paid anything. If you think that I need to be paid to make content with President Obama, then you've clearly never seen the content I've been posting on this app for years. The fact that these conspiracy theorists think it would take a paid actor bribed by a liberal conspiracy to speak out against gun violence against kids, or student loan debt, or making sure that everyone has the right to vote just shows you how out of touch they are. I really appreciate the people who've been defending me against these ridiculous threats, and for the conspiracy theorists, I'm sorry, there's no story here.
So a few things. He claims that the only case people have against him is a single Washington Post article where they show a quote that says the DNC paid a retainer to his management company. It's not just that. We have exact figures, $210,000 from the FEC. We have those numbers. We also have the Midas Touch numbers of him getting paid directly for this type of stuff. Again, when I brought up Midas Touch to him, he tried to pretend like I was crazy for even mentioning that. What are you talking about? This guy's crazy. But the other thing he mentions is this idea of, hey, any content I've posted where I've been sponsored or whatever, I've done disclosures which are required by law or whatever. That's interesting. Because I went through the Palette roster and I checked out some of the content creators because I wanted to make sure, hey, are all of these people political, whatever? And not all of them are explicitly political. But I noticed when they did post things that were pretty obviously ads to me, they weren't posting any disclosures about, hey, this is an ad, by the way. And similarly, for other people in his type of position, I also haven't seen many of them do proper disclosures when it comes to ads. In fact, as you can see here from the New York Times, there's an entire story titled "Campaigns Pay Influencers to Carry Their Messages, Skirting Political Ad Rules." And in the story, they talk about different PACs and the amount of influencers they had, like 10,000 influencers for People First. You had this Next Gen PAC that set aside $2 million during the campaign cycle for a digital strategy. You had Democratic Majority PAC that focused on congressional races in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, offering influencers between $300 and $500 per post. And yes, some campaigns have hired influencers as members of their staffs, recognizing the power of a large social media following to blast out their messages. But Harry pretends like it's so cut and clear. Oh, well, this is required by law. I do disclosures. Of course, I comply with the law. It's not exactly that clear. As you can see here in the article, while many organizations mandate that influencers with whom they contract for posts divulge that the material is sponsored, the partnerships raise unique issues as no federal guidance has been published on the specifics of influencer political advertisements. That means that users in political marketing campaigns are effectively bound by no more than an honor system in disclosing when content has been paid for by a political campaign or organization. Some experts worry it could exacerbate the spread of misinformation and allow shadowy political messaging to flourish. The Federal Election Commission, which oversees campaign finance law, including political advertising, does not have specific regulations for influencers, meaning they are not subject to the same rules as traditional advertisements like TV and radio ads, which mandate disclosure of who paid for the content. Political action committees must report how they spend their money, but they are not required to disclose the names of individual influencers or accounts with which they partner, and recipients of PAC or campaign funding have no legal obligation to disclose money they receive. Editing bro checking in. I tried saying this when I originally filmed it, but it cut out for some reason. So that's very interesting about the disclosures, because when I spoke to Harry in the Twitter space, he was trying to say that this was all publicly disclosed. It's all public information. You could just look it up. And he said I was wrong.
Anyway, so what I was saying before Nuance lost his mind was that, as I think it was Zag who said it, I'm not 100% sure, but if I was taking any money by anybody, it's public information, so go look it up.
That's not how it works, and you know that's not how it works. That's bullshit.
All right.
Again,
No, it's not
you
true.
have a fundamental misunderstanding of how this stuff works.
All right. I think it depends, but I think it's possible that Harry's correct that if he's been paid by a corporation,
That's not true, Zach.
It is
That's
true. It's a
That's actually not true.
How do LLCs work? How do 501c4s work? Gee, nobody knows. Everyone says Soros didn't fund Alvin Bragg. Yeah, that's technically true, but he does it through C4s. Everybody knows that.
Okay, so the question that I have to ask.
Who is this?
Interesting. So we just saw there that they're not required to disclose the influencers that they fund. They're not required to talk about their donors. Also, if he's getting money through his management company, which management companies, agencies, whatever you want to call them, often do that, they'll be the ones that take the money, just like we saw in the FEC filing that Pallet got it from the DNC. When they distribute that to the creators, after they take their cut or whatever, if they distribute to the creators, when they take their founder's fee or whatever, their agency fee, 10%, 20%, whatever it is, and they distribute that to the creator, this is a private corporation. This is a business. They don't have to publicly disclose their payments at all. So what Harry just said there is total nonsense. Some of these orgs can voluntarily disclose. Of course, for example, we saw the Midas Touch payment that was direct to Harry. Those are disclosed. But like you saw in the New York Times article, most of these payments are not required to be disclosed. Influencers can create the illusion of popularity for particular organizations, campaigns, politicians, corporations, especially in circumstances when we saw that influencers weren't disclosing that they were paid, said Samuel Woolley, the director of propaganda research at the University of Texas at Austin's Center for Media Engagement. Mr. Woolley, who has studied how social media platforms have been used to manipulate public opinion, says he worries that true transparency is impossible because influencers fear losing followers if they promote content that is clearly marked as sponsored by a political group or candidate. According to FEC data, campaigns and political action committees have spent more than $300 million during this election cycle on digital and social media advertising and consulting. It is impossible to discern how much of that has gone directly to influencers because PACs and campaigns typically pay firms that then contract work to influencers. So basically what I was saying earlier, if they pay Pallet, for example, and then Pallet pays the influencer, you don't get disclosure on the end of Pallet to the influencer where that money went. And here's a very particularly interesting note. Platforms including Twitter and TikTok have banned political ads. TikTok has even banned political ads from paid influencers. But in a statement in the lead up to the midterm elections, Eric Hahn, TikTok's head of US safety, conceded that undisclosed political advertising from influencers was still a problem. Oh, that's interesting. So if you ever do paid work that's political advertising on TikTok, that goes against the rules of TikTok. It's supposed to be removed. So this idea that he's disclosing the work that he does on TikTok or Chris does on TikTok, whatever, This is nonsense because they would be removed from TikTok. It goes against TikTok's rules. So already the law, the federal law around this is already ambiguous, so they don't necessarily have to disclose because they don't really have regulations out about it, according to the FEC. And then TikTok explicitly bans it. So this idea that he's just, oh, I'm so up forth. If I've ever done work like this, I'm very up forth with my audience. Okay. We've already caught him in lies, claiming, oh, this is all in public disclosures. Everything that I'm paid for is definitely public. That's nonsense. And at the end of the article, they highlight two different examples. They highlight one person who does the disclosure, who thinks it's not healthy for democracy, and then another person who doesn't disclose. Tracy Travaglio, 37, a fashion and political micro-influencer from Pennsylvania who has partnered with the Democratic Majority Action PAC to advertise about her state's gubernatorial race, said she had disclosed her partnership status in her caption. Failure to do so, she added, is not necessarily healthy for our democracy. But we scroll down. Sam Schlafstein, 19, who has more than 137,000 followers on TikTok and works with the nonprofit group Gen Z for Change, said the campaigns he partners with have strict guidelines and insist on editing his captions and content multiple times before he can post. Mr. Schlafstein, who has worked with the Democratic National Committee and the White House, added that social media platforms and the influence of Gen Z users like him have democratized political messaging. He added, he only agrees to create posts for issues he genuinely cares about. The benefit could outweigh the cons, and it's not the worst instance of a lack of transparency in politics, he said. So the implication seems to be there that, hey, I'm not disclosing, but it's not the worst instance of transparency in politics, so whatever. Now, I know this video has been all over the place up until now, and it's going to continue being all over the place because it's 6 in the morning. I've been filming for 3 hours, so my mind's also kind of all over the place. So I do want to hop back to something. In our research, we came across this group, Accelerate Change. TikTok 22 election interference, evidence of TikTok suppression of get out the vote efforts in 2022. And if we scroll down, in the US 2022 US midterm elections, nonprofit Media Lab Accelerate Change ran a series of experiments that found TikTok heavily suppressed nonpartisan videos that encouraged users to vote. So basically, this is like an analytics company or whatever, and they ran an analysis. What we did, they worked with 22 TikTok influencers whom each produced 2 nonpartisan posts encouraging their followers to vote. In one video, the creator held handmade signs with nonpartisan get out the vote messaging but avoided saying election words. In the other, the influencer read an identical script with pro-voting messages but said the election words aloud instead of presenting them on handmade signs and included election captions and hashtags that were detectable by TikTok. Each video pair was shared within a 24-hour window with the run-up to the November 8th, 2022 election and Georgia's Senate runoff on December 6th, 2022. The posting order of the paired videos was randomized to avoid bias. So here we see examples, detectable election words in this one, undetectable election words in this one. And they learned that TikTok stifled get out the vote efforts, etc. But why am I saying this? Well, let's look at the design. And here we have lists of some of the participants. And who do we see on this list? Mr. Harry Sisson, right there, 51,800 views. One of the higher view counts, I might add. And again, Harry Sisson, right here, this time with the spoken election words, 70,500 views. So it actually looks like Harry got more views when he spoke the words than when he did the handmade sign, so which actually kind of goes against the data, but I guess in aggregate, the data shows otherwise. So why am I randomly showing you this study just because it has Harry in it or whatever? Well, Accelerate Change, as we can see from Influence Watch here, Accelerate Change is a left-of-center organizing group which mainly funds and provides organizational consultation services to like-minded left-of-center organizations. It was formerly a project of the Center for Public Interest Research within Public Interest Network. Interesting. Let's look at this Public Interest Network. Okay, let's see. The Public Interest Network, PIN, is a collection of over 100 left-wing nonprofit and for-profit organizations headed by Doug Phelps, a powerful Democratic Party political operative connected with the Democracy Alliance network of left-of-center donors. Remember, that was the Soros group. But okay, it said former, so it's no longer anymore. What could they be connected to now? Well, if we go back to the New Media Ventures website, we see this for investors and startups, December 1st, 2022, the TikTok gap. Progressives have fallen behind on emerging social platforms and must catch up. And if we scroll down so we can access this report, the TikTok gap. Okay, let's scroll down, executive summary, blah, blah, blah. Cool. And here you can see the solution, 8 strategies to win on emerging communication platforms. And they list them out here. And they talk about how, in particular, progressive funders should invest in piloting at least a few of these strategies in the 2022 midterms and aim for substantial ecosystem development by the 2024 election. We also must ensure that capital investments, decision-making power, and access to other resources are distributed primarily among communities of color, working-class communities, LGBTQ+ communities, and other marginalized communities. And across all of those identities, we must focus especially on leaders from Gen Z. Authentic voices native to these platforms have by far the best shot at building progressive power on them. Step number 1, build a community of practice. And they talk about landscape analysis. Some institutions like Accelerate Change or the Movement Cooperative support their affiliates to experiment and share lessons, but their spaces are not open to the broader movement. Other practitioners running experiments report no natural peer group for sharing lessons. So they say rough annual room for funding, $1 to $2 million. This is what they're getting investments for. Now check this out. Step number 3, scale nascent investment into cultural media properties and influencer networks. Examples of nascent efforts in this arena that have room for more funding include investment vehicles like New Media Ventures Cultural Media Fund, Accelerate Change's Media Acquisition Project, influencer networks like Vocal, We Could Be Music, and Gen Z for Change. And of course, other groups like Luz Collective, Courier Newsroom, Chinese for Affirmative Action, just total AstroTurf garbage. They want to invest $100 to $500 million into this. So remember, Gen Z for Change is part of this group, and they want to invest anywhere between $100 and $500 million into this. And frankly, for the right wing, it's embarrassing. What do you see that's comparable on the right wing when it comes to this sort of stuff? The amount of networks that the left has and these donor groups that fund all these people is incredible. I mean, look at this event that Harry was introduced at recently. The Town and Country Philanthropy Summit of 2022.
It is the companies that believe and support this mission. Thank you. Thank you, Bank of America Private Bank. Thank you, Gulfstream. Thank you, La Prairie. Thank you, New World Development. Thank you, New York Presbyterian. Thank you, One Hotels.
He's speaking at an event that's sponsored by Bank of America and Gulfstream Jets. This is the private jet company that all the billionaires buy their private jets from. When was the last conference you saw conservatives get sponsorships from mega corporations like this?
I am so pleased to begin this summit by introducing a man who, when I began this role 6 years ago, took the time to sit down with me and envision a new way to do this summit. I am so grateful to him for that and for all the light and the hope he brings to our country, our great city, and our world. Please join me in introducing the president of the Ford Foundation, Mr. Darren Walker.
Well, look at that. Who is that there? That's our boy Harry getting introduced by the president of the Ford Foundation at an event sponsored by Bank of America and Gulfstream Private Jets, a General Dynamics corporation.
My name is Harry Sisson. I'm 20 years old, and I grew up in both Dublin, Ireland, and Westchester, New York. I hope to bring attention to climate change, which is an existential threat to not only America, but the entire world. Our carbon emissions are far too high, and unless we change course, our planet will become uninhabitable. Fossil fuel companies continue to pollute with little to no consequence. I intend to use my voice and my vote to bring about meaningful change, as I believe it's my obligation to my fellow Americans. Our democracy depends on an informed electorate putting forth strong candidates who will in turn legislate in a way that benefits the most amount of people. That's why I'm voting, and that's my hope for America. Thank you.
I think we are more hopeful for America. After hearing from each of these great young leaders, please join me in congratulating and thanking them for being with us today.
Bravo. Bravo. I have to applaud that. I mean, to be at an event introduced by the president of the Ford Foundation, which, by the way, if we take a look at Influence Watch once again, I mean, this is as of December 2014, it possessed assets of $12.5 billion. More recently, the assets are at $17.8 billion. It spends over $1 billion per year, taking in revenue of $652 million a year. And we can get into the history of the Ford Foundation. It's very fascinating. Basically, Henry Ford started the foundation. It was like a tax avoidance type thing for the family. It was some stuff like that. But then eventually control was taken away from them, and it got into becoming a more activist organization. It's like a left-wing activist organization now that's, funnily enough, anti-capitalist, basically going against the dreams and wishes of Henry Ford and his family. So thank you, 1930s tax policy, for creating this foundation that has now experienced hostile takeovers and has become a left-wing activist organization. But obviously, again, in addition to that, Bank of America, Gulfstream Jets, some of these other luxurious brands, conservatives could only dream of sponsorships like that. Oftentimes, the best thing they could hope for is a MyPillow sponsorship.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow.
But again, this is not just about Harry. It's not just about Chris, who we've barely even talked about in this video. But it's about this whole industry, this emerging social media industry meshed in with politics, especially on the left side, which is taking full advantage of this. This has been something we've talked about before with Dash Dabrowski. Again, I made that video. Which, by the way, I never mentioned the Midas Touch connection with Dash Dabrowski in the previous video. Because if we go to his LinkedIn, we can see that Dash Dabrowski was also, under political activism, teamed with Midas Touch PAC as a featured political reporter on 60-plus videos ahead of 2022 midterms. Also, partnered with Democratic National Committee, DNC, to amplify party messages ahead of 2022 midterms. Did we see the public disclosures of that? I don't recall. And again, even earlier than Dash, you have this guy, Brooklyn Dad, if you've ever seen him on the timeline. Popular left-wing blogger Brooklyn Dad hits back after it's revealed he was paid by Democratic Party. This is from The Independent. According to a vendor recipient profile on opensecrets.org, Mr. Padayan received a total of $57,088 in 13 payments from the Really American PAC between the 13th of July 2020 and the 24th of December 2020. So we're talking over 10 grand a month here for what? His Twitter posts? And here's the account right here, Brooklyn Dad Defiant. You want to know if you're being reached out to organically or if this is part of an influence operation. Know when you're being fed propaganda. Now, I want to reiterate, don't go after any of the people mentioned in this video. Some people make honest mistakes. Some people are part of influence operations. Just be aware of that. Be knowledgeable of that. And hey, if there's anybody in your life that you think needs to be more aware of this, share this video with them. See what they think. And if you could, give this video a like so it boosts it in the algorithm, helps out, pushes it out to more people. And yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Social media links are in the description box below, as well as merch. Support us at nuancebro.com/join, and I'll see you next time, bro.